Hey everybody, how's it going? This is TUSDarryl and welcome to my review of Deadlight, a game with a very large setting, but a very personal story. In Deadlight, you play as Randall, a very groggy and tired old man who's just done with life and just wants to find his family and make sure they're safe. And he'll do so through any means necessary, no matter what leaps and bounds he has to take. Now that you know a little bit about the story, let me tell you how the game presents itself. If I had to describe this game's appearance and presentation in one word and one word only, I'd say shadows. This game loves its shadows and its lighting. And that's not a bad thing at all, because the way it presents the shadows and the lighting gives the background and the foreground a lot of depth. The downside is all the characters are also silhouetted, so if you're trying to get a good look at someone, you're not really going to see much. That said, the environments you wind up in are very much alive and look lived in. This game really does love its environmental storytelling. You'll see blood draped on a wall, maybe someone scrawled, however you say that word, I can't remember. They put the word help or God save us or something like that on the wall, and you can assume that someone got trapped in that room, and, well, you know the rest. Unfortunately, the game goes by so quickly in terms of how fast you have to move that you tend to miss some of these details sometimes unless you're stuck in a room having to solve a puzzle, but I can get to the gameplay aspects later. For now, let's move on to sound.
Shit, the end of the line. Nobody knows when the end will come. Until it's too late.
Welcome. I'm Harold the Rat, and this is my labyrinth.
When times change, men must change, Mr. Wayne. The rat knew the world would end sooner or later, so I built my hideaway here. The evil cat will never look for a live rat in a rat trap.
And hide? Like he does? I hate rat meat. No one can survive eating rat meat.
A lot of good sound design is put into this game. Open areas sound like they just keep going on and on and on forever, while the much more closed areas feel contained and echoes don't really bounce off the walls. You can hear a zombie downstairs, you can hear one upstairs, you can hear one that's about to get up around you. Overall, the sound is very good. Now, I don't comment a lot on voice acting like that, but in this game, the voice acting can be average to meh, with some characters kind of falling flat in their delivery. But that has nothing to do with the sound design overall, which is, as I said, really good. Moving on to gameplay. Now, Deadlight plays a lot like your almost typical side-scrolling platformer, with some puzzles and some action thrown in there in between. Some chapters you'll have large sections of running and running and running and jumping and running and jumping, and then you'll occasionally fall in some cases. But other chapters will be more focused on action. Now, the action portions are very much dependent on where you are in the story. You're not going to pick up like 5 guns and go around guns blazing, shooting every zombie or whatever you want to call them in this game in the head and whatnot. A lot of the time, you'll lose your weapons and you'll have to deal with some very minor supplies like a slingshot and whatnot. That said, it doesn't mean the game isn't gripping what it wants to be. There are sections of platforming which the game primarily uses. Action is very much a secondary thing that make you think. You'll mess up a lot if you overshoot your jump or if you don't roll at a certain time. Moments like that are where the game shines. However, sometimes these moments can be a little too precise, as you will have seen if you watch my Let's Play. There's a moment later on in the game where I have to go through a slew of things that are just falling on Randall's head. But I can't roll in time, I can't jump in time. It has to be so precise that I wound up dying several times there. Now, maybe I just suck. It wouldn't surprise me if I just suck. But that's one of those moments where I feel like, okay, the platforming could be a little less aggressive, if I had to put it that way. But that said, that moment was still a lot of fun to try and get through up until the point I got frustrated. But that's just me at that point, I guess. Combat-wise, you'll encounter a slew of zombies and whatnot, but at the same time, even when you're armed to the teeth, you're not supposed to take them all down, or at least not all the time. You can't, I mean, ammo is plentiful in the game, but you're encouraged to keep moving, because the moment they get their hands on you, if more than at least 2 or 3 of them get their hands on you, you're screwed. Even if you break out one of their grips, then the next one will just grab you, then the next one will grab you, then the next one will grab you, and then they're having a Randall dinner, if you know what I'm saying. This game is very much something that encourages you to run and avoid fights as much as you can, which, due to its linear nature, is typically going forward or going down just to go forward again, forward being to the right. Overall, there are about 3 to 4 sections in the game, and if you miss any collectibles in the previous areas, you're kind of SOL. But if you go back to the main menu and select it from the chapter select, it'll drop you right there. Maybe not exactly where you were, but it'll drop you at the beginning of that checkpoint in that area, which I think is a very good quality of life thing. That said, is this game fun to play? The short answer is yes, until you get frustrated, but yes, it is a lot of fun to play. However, it's also very short. According to howlongtobeat.com, the game is only 4 hours, which, even though I finished it in 7 hours, if I cut out a lot of the deaths that I had, it is roughly about 4 hours. Not to mention that 2 of those hours that are logged into my Steam account are from a time when I just booted up Deadlight and played it a little bit, so take my completion time with a grain of salt. I did want this review to be a bit longer, but due to the game's arcadey nature and the fact that it's so short, I can really only get in so much to say about it without spoiling some things in the story. So without further ado, I'm just going to hop right into my verdict. In the end, I'd have to give Deadlight a caution, not because the game is terrible or anything like that, it's far from that, but because of its pricing and its length. We're talking 4 hours of game, and the asking price is $15. Not to mention the fact that the story is also kind of just there, and it doesn't really weigh heavily on you. So I can't even use the story as a means of saying, yeah, get this game even at full price. But at the same time, I'm not saying don't get the game. Get the game, but I would say get it on sale. I'd say the game feels more like a $10 experience, if you ask me. $10 is a fine asking price. $15 to me is kind of pushing it. And then if you count the soundtrack that is included for the Deadlight Plus soundtrack version that you could buy on Steam, that's $20. Soundtrack to me didn't really stand out all that much. So take that as you will. Anyway, thanks guys for stopping by for this review of Deadlight. I hope you guys have enjoyed your stay. I'll see you guys next time.